Save to the cloud. There we go. We are now recording this bad boy. Everyone wave to the camera. You are now live, and we'll be there for posterity's sake as well. Before we get started, one big thing that we ask everyone before we get going here: what questions do you have? Because we know that we don't know what you don't know. So help us figure out exactly what you want us to cover tonight. Because if we can cover the things that you need, then we know it was beneficial. What are the things that you want us to cover tonight? Feel free to unmute and just chime in.
Clifford. Clifford James Gallen from the Westfield Toastmasters Club. Here's what I don't get. How did they decide what speeches go with what pathway? And I'm the persuasive influencer pathway, and none of my speeches have been anything about persuading or influencing anyone. And I get asked by my members, and I have no idea what to say. That's all I'm asking.
Well, we can definitely help with that. We'll get into kind of the whys behind how Pathways as a whole was created, so you can answer those questions more easily within your clubs. It's a very good question. First time that one's been asked this week. We'll definitely get into that. What else?
I have a second question.
Sure.
My second question is, who determined the split between the Toastmasters International dues and the club dues? It's like Toastmasters International, club dues. And I'm just curious how they determined that distinguishing factor.
So that's actually a club question. There's a set amount that always goes to the club, or that always goes to Toastmasters International. And there's a specific amount. What's that?
I feel like it's $1 a month for the club without raising the overall membership dues. How do we renegotiate $7.50 to TMI versus $1 to us? Sorry, I didn't explain that before. That's my fault.
So if I'm hearing you right, it's that you wanted to pay no more, but get more in return. Like most things in life, there are set costs to manage and be able to run programs like this around the world. There is a cost to be able to have a staff available at Toastmasters International to be able to answer questions. There is a sunk cost to be able to have the servers to be able to host something like Pathways, to be able to purchase something like Pathways. There's a set cost in developing the educational system. All of that goes into that set amount, that $45 that we pay to Toastmasters every 6 months. The $20 per path, is really based upon the amount of money that it takes to run Pathways as a whole for members around the world. There's a set schedule that Toastmasters uses for when they actually talk about raising international club dues. And that's every other year. They'll only talk about it every 2 years. So it's not a given that they'll raise dues every 2 years. We went for a number of years that we had the same amount of international dues. If you're looking to get more, but pay the same, I challenge you to go out and find another organization that will teach you how to be a public speaker for $45 every 6 months. If you've looked at something like the Dale Carnegie classes, if you've ever looked at colleges that offer public speaking courses, those are significantly more expensive. And the reason why we do the public speaking is because communication is the language of leadership. And we are not an organization that is purely based on speaking. We are where leaders are made. So if you can find somewhere that can give you the experience to fail in private so you can succeed in public, and then be able to help you also get over the fear of being able to speak in public and do that for less than 45 bucks, then you found a wonderful organization, and I encourage you to share that with the rest of the world. Because I do not know of another more cost-effective way to change your communication style and probably change your leadership style, which can change your life. So Clifford, I can't give you we are going to renegotiate that deal for everybody, but I can tell you that that's kind of the story behind the whole thing. So before Clifford asks question number 3, anybody else have question number 1? Rob, I see you kind of reaching for your computer to chime in.
Oh, good eye. In general, what, I'm VP of Education for day peepers. what would you recommend are some expectations I set for each member to be using Basecamp? And then as they move through their program, what they should be doing to enter their evaluations, wherever that might be, how that gets done, and what, as VP of Education, should I be doing to monitor them, their Basecamp, following each of them, and what triggers will be sent to me. So generally, obviously, I was in Basecamp early on. I haven't been in it for a while. I really need to start to get back into that on a regular basis, but just some procedural things between member expectations and what I should be doing as VP Education.
Francisco will 100% be covering that. We've covered that in every night so far. That's kind of the basics that we're covering tonight. And you'll actually be able to walk away going, I know things now that I didn't know before. So we will definitely help you with that one tonight. Very good question. Joan, do you have a question since you're unmuted?
Yes, I'm a relatively new member. I just joined this year and then I became an officer. So I don't really have a lot of background knowledge of what the pathway is, what the Basecamp is. From what I gathered, I kind of know. So here's a place that I kind of want to have a little bit more the official answer to what it's supposed to do.
We will definitely cover the basics of how to run Basecamp and to be a Basecamp manager. If you want to set up a call with me, I'll be more than glad to walk you through the whole how to use pathways, because that's a whole separate hour that we can spend just on how to use pathways itself. But if that's something you want to do, just let me know, send me a note, and we can set some time up to be able to talk to you about that individually.
Okay,
Fair?
yeah,
Okay.
thank you.
Junshi,
Hi.
any questions?
Yeah, this is Junshi. Good to see you all. So I'm a new secretary for Notre Dame Toastmaster Club.
Nice.
I have a question about the Basecamp. We are seeing a kind of a attrition of using Basecamp to make progress along the way. So that fewer and fewer speakers sign up for the speech. And I wonder, are there any ways that we can monitor and motivate the existing members to keep up their progress? And
Yes.
for the new members, how should we advertise or show them, walk them through the basic benefits and leadership development through those Basecamp?
We will definitely cover that this evening. That is without a doubt part of this whole process we're going to cover tonight. You'll definitely walk away with some answers to that.
Cool.
And Clifford, question number 3.
Last question.
Sure.
I'm just curious, what was the difference in between Toastmasters dues when we were printing manuals that, or booklets or whatever that people had to follow versus pathways? And to make that a two-part question, how did they differentiate between how the Toastmasters pathways and speeches kind of coalesce into what they are now versus what they were before pathways?
So I can answer the first part. I don't know if I necessarily understand the second part of the question. So question 1, when we went to Pathways, I think it was last year, we had if I remember right, was it a $5 increase in dues? Did we go from 40 to 45? Is that right? Yeah, Francisco, you were around. Was it like 38 maybe to 45?
Yeah, I think it was a small jump, $5 more, yes.
Yeah.
$7.
Yeah, we maybe $5 or $7 chump when we went to Pathways, and it really wasn't related to Pathways. It was more we hadn't had a dues increase in at least 4 years before that, 4 to 6 years before. It had been a little while. The dues were the same when we changed last year as what they were when I started in 2012. So the same amount had been there. The way that so there's a little bit of a difference in cost when it comes to Pathways and the amount of speeches you have and that sort of thing. When we used to have paper manuals, we bought all the manuals ourselves. And it was usually $6 to $8 per manual plus shipping, which was another $12 for shipping, which was insane. Yeah, you wanted to buy a bunch of stuff together and get it shipped all at once. That's how every club survived. So we paid for those individual manuals from our own pockets, and we had the choice to where we wanted to go. But the manuals were only 5 speeches. The advanced manuals were only 5 speeches. The competent communicator was only 10 speeches. So you weren't getting access to as many projects or speeches when you had manuals. That's what you do now within Pathways. The quantity has significantly changed. I don't know if I understand the second part of your question though.
Second part of my question would be, I'm on the persuasive influencer pathway, and personally, I have not distinguished any difference between my pathway and presentation mastery pathway, or truth be told, any other pathway.
What level are you on?
I'm sorry, what?
Which level are you on?
I'm on, I just completed level 4.
Okay. The paths definitely differentiate once you get past level 3. Level 4 and 5 are different for every path. The first couple of 1 and 2 are the same for every path. 3 changes a little bit, and 4 and 5 are very different.
Gotcha.
For the projects that you do. Yeah. Francisco, you want to take over with this?
Well,
We have some good questions to answer.
Yeah, I wanted to mention, Clifford, you've been doing this how long now? 3 years? 4 years? A year?
Yeah, like 2 or 3 years. Thank you.
Okay, I'll tell you, to me, the greatest benefit about Pathways, and we're going to go over that today, is the fact that it's digitized. In the old days, if you gave your manual to an officer to sign, and people would do that, hey, sign this, and for whatever reason life happened, you just lost 6 months of your life. That manual went away, you moved, and then you're like, oh my gosh, and you know, the fact that it has been digitized, and yes, we could spend hours arguing the old and the new. It's what we have today. It's a learning management system. I want to highlight that fact. This is kind of not only my field, but what I'm getting a master's on. We build Pathways on something that's called Cornerstone on Demand. So a lot of what is in there, you could say that's, you know, what the industry agrees, how we can take people through, as Scott said, different stages, help you climb the mountain. I like it, and I'm learning more, and I learned more this week. And yes, it's hard to get people, and this goes back to Junchi's question, you know, it's hard to get people encouraged. Sometimes the club feels like a social club, but when we do this, as Scott mentioned, the value is when we, in our own way, at our own speed, decide to do the speeches. And back to what you were saying, that they look similar. I'll never forget the one time somebody in the olden days, there was this competent leadership manual that used to take a backseat, okay? It had a massive grid that reminds me of the training details on Pathways. So you kind of like put it aside, you know, the CC was 10 steps. Well, guess what? That competent leadership manual, I'll never forget, I was about to quit. I was a little bit frustrated. Life was happening, and somebody took the time, somebody mentored me into showing and saying, hey, look, you don't have to do everything. You have to do 1 or 2 or 3. And guess what? I realized, oh my gosh, I've done timer, I've done this, I've done all these things. I could have gotten half the manual done. And your role as an officer, you're a VP, you said, or president?
Well, I'm the president, and to be fair, I'm not actually questioning the pathway thing. I'm just saying that if we're gonna have 11 different pathways, what is the distinction between the different pathways?
That's what I was heading.
Will make you better.
That's what I was heading. It's, as I understand it, in some projects, even though you see the same thing, they will be required for your path a different project to be completed. You see 10, like level 4 has 7 or 8. Well, guess what? The required one may differ between paths. Like I'm an enthusiast of the high performance leadership. I've been told people, you don't have to. In the olden days, you had to do an HPL. Now you don't. It may be in your path. Does that make any sense? They scrambled it. They scrambled the prerequisites, if you will. It's like school. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I guess all I was asking was, what is that distinction that they decide between the different level 4 mandatory speeches? And I'm just curious if there was reasoning behind it, or if it was just kind of, hey.
I was in a club in Florida when I was in Florida. I was in one of the beta testing clubs. Right. So before I moved to Indiana, I was in Florida for almost 20 years. And one of my clubs was one of the clubs that beta tested Pathways. They went through so many ideations of what should be in every path that it looks nothing like what it started with today. And it grew out of a lot of feedback from clubs from all around the world. This wasn't something that was developed by Toastmasters International in isolation in their home office. This is something that was done from clubs all around the world with feedback for, what do you think should be in this? How does this work better? And it became, the final product you see now is really the culmination of feedback from thousands of members all around the world.
Okay, and with that, it's 7:22, and as Toastmasters, we have to always watch the clock. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Right now, we're going to look first at.
Oh,
We have a portion on Basecamp first, and then we will have a quick look at your data inside Pathways. That's how I see it. So how to go to Basecamp? Again, there's more than all roads lead to Rome. I'm going to start sharing my screen. Can everybody see Toastmasters International, my profile? Yep, okay. So Scott was showing me, I know how to get in there one way, but he was showing me what amounts to a quicker, you're saving a couple of clicks, a quicker path into Basecamp. And let's make sure that we understand two things. One, as officers, president, VP, and secretary, like Junshi, she may know this already, you want to log in as a Basecamp manager. That's what we're going to focus on tonight is here. When you go into Pathways, I'll go a little bit later, we go in without checking this. Okay, so right now I'm going to click in here, log in as Basecamp manager. I'm going to go to the drop down. I can select which club I want to help with, approve. By the way, very important, we don't approve projects, we approve levels. The projects are essentially completed by ourselves as members. We approve the levels after the member says, okay, I did everything, I completed my level, I'm sending the last project in, and that's what the Basecamp manager does. It's approved that. However, since this is a two-person system to verify, the reason why we have an e-portfolio and we have other places is for us to put our evaluations there, especially if you're a member of multiple clubs and all that. And if anybody asks you, you can go and say, yes, here's my evaluation from 6 months ago, a year ago, on this level, so that you can approve it. So it's okay. BPEs or secretaries may ask you also, where's your evaluation? So we go in here as Basecamp managers. I'm going to go into the advanced club Scott and I belong to. It asks you where you want to go, confirm home club selection, you're switching. We click continue. And then we click go. Okay. There's always a note in here. They use this for, they're not sending certificates. We got to download them. To me personally, that's another big thing about Pathways. It's all digitized, it's all there, it's all being saved. Okay. So the most important thing is pending request. I assume some of you have heard of this. When the member completes their level, we will see a pending request on an email. And then this is all we have to do is come in here. I don't have any right now that I can show you. Very important note. We cannot, as Basecamp managers, approve our own projects. That's also why we have 3 people, not only to make the load lighter, but to have that verification, 2 people verification, again, share the load and audit each other, if you will. So if I had something to approve in here, it would be, the name would be here. Actually, hold on, let me backtrack here 1 second. I just realized my other club has one. Okay, take 2. Oh, by the way, very important, if you're switching between clubs, you have to click in here every time. I learned that yesterday. So I'm going to go to the other club, Illuminators. It tells me to confirm. And then I hit go. We go to pending request again. See, I have somebody here that, and I told her she completed the project, but I wanted to see a couple of evaluations. She's my assistant area director, and she may have done some of the projects not at my club, and it's perfectly okay to us. Something very important, you have a shot as an officer and as a fellow Toastmaster when you click on the approval, and I won't. This is not ready to be approved. This is live in production, as we would say. when you click on approve, there'll come a little box where you can write a short bit of feedback. Most of us enjoy the fact that Toastmasters trains us on giving feedback. That's an excellent opportunity to encourage this member once again to continue on their path now that they have completed a level. Okay, so we saw that. The other very important thing that we're going to work on here today, I'm going to go back home as a Basecamp manager.
So is everybody comfortable with how you go in to approve a pending request as a Basecamp manager? Do you understand why you do that? And do you understand where you go to do that? Thumbs up if you got that part. Rob, good? Yeah. Junshu, Joan, you guys, y'all all right with that? Yeah, very good. Okay, we just want to make sure that you guys are comfortable with that part.
Okay, so the other thing, oh, by the way, I will not go here, but there are tutorials. That's another great thing about everything being digitized. If you have the time and the inclination, most of what we're sharing here has been put out there in a video. The other big thing about Basecamp tonight is member progress. This is where we review the member learning reports. We click on it. This is my home club. We're a young club. We just got chartered. I have to wait for this one.
This system takes a little bit. So when you log in to do reports, don't expect that it's going to come up quickly. Rob, you're going to this is going to be one of those places that you get a lot of the information that you're looking for. It takes a while to load, sometimes as long as 15 minutes to load, depending upon your width and how many other clubs are out there trying to download stuff as well.
Yeah, and what I'm going to do is use the one that I loaded yesterday, which is my advanced club. Okay, I click login. I'm going to share again. Okay, always remember to click here. And I'm going to check my advanced club, continue. So you guys have seen this like 3 times. Click go. Okay, member progress. One thing, Scott is part of this club, and this is going to be a shameless plug. It's an advanced club, if you will, in our district. See, this is from yesterday. That was refreshed yesterday. So we have that. And the members here are in current, past, and hopefully future district leaders. As you can see, the dashboard, that's where I'm at, by the way. We have 3 kinds. I'm going to try to zoom this in. On reports, we have reports. Maybe assume that, oh, there you go. Reports. You have standard reports. Those are very complex. You have to be an analytics nut to really enjoy that. For the rest of us, we have dashboards and a standard, custom. You can literally program the report. Dashboard is what we're seeing, and then we're going to briefly touch on the standard reports. So when we go here into the individual progress, you see you have all these levels, level completions. It's refreshing, I think. It hasn't been refreshed in April 9. So hold on 1 second. Let me go back to individual progress. Okay, very important. Can everybody see this little teeny tiny invisible arrow down on the top right corner of the individual progress? Can you see it here? That's where you click in here, and you can view more details as the analytics people say. You can drill down in it, and voila, for those of you who enjoy Excel, you can make this your own. You can take the dashboard and export it to Excel. And here's the refresh button that Scott was mentioning before. So right now I'm going to drill down 1 level. It will pop up another window, and this is very important. You see down here, besides the bars, we now see the actual data. Okay, and we are seeing, we see the data was generated, the club number. It has the filter criteria, and it has people. I'm there. I'm working on something. Joe Phillips, Cindy Vaughn. Bottom line, as a VPE, this is the place you want to go to better assist your members and check in with them. Hey, at what level are you at? What projects are you working in? Would you like to, to have a spot for a speech at a specific time? Go ahead, Scott.
So one of the interesting things about this is that it only really shows the levels completed when somebody is logged into your club. Like a lot of us, like I'm in 5 different clubs. So when my name shows up on this, it's only when I've given credit to that club for level completion or for a project. When I've been logged into that club, that's what's going to show up here for my member progress. There are other programs out there that are available through that have been crowdsourced from Toastmasters. One is called Easy Speak, and one is called Free Toast Host. They're tied together a little bit more completely amongst all clubs. That as long as they're a little bit easier to manage and be able to see complete data. So when you drill down by member, you're only going to see the members who completed projects for your individual club, not if they're in his second club. So like Francisco's in 2 clubs. If he was logged in under Illuminators, went through and did a path, completed the path, when it finished the level, completed the level, all that is going to be under Illuminator. So now if he goes in and looks for that same thing under Lot, he's not going to see that it's only going to be that one club. So know that it's not complete information, but it does give you, especially for members only in one club, you're going to see everything. But for those members that are members of multiple clubs, you're not going to really see a complete picture.
Excellent point. And that's going to be my segue, Scott. I'm going to take advantage of what you just said. Very important. Again, it's technology. So we have all this wonderful information in Pathways. As Scott said, we assign it, where it goes, which club gets credit. That's part of the competition, the competitive nature of the program. Very important. Not only do we complete the levels here, there is a second step where we have to do the same thing in what is called, everybody knows what Club Central means. Do I need to show you where it's at? Raise your hand if you do. Okay. I don't know why it took me out, but I'm going to try to get back in there. Okay, it's very simple, Clifford. This is another way of also by going into Pathways. So everybody knows where Club Central is. Thumbs up, yes? Okay, okay. Anyhow, I'm just, for the recording.
Francisco, since Joan's only been around for a couple of months, my guess is that she probably hasn't seen this yet. So can you just walk through real quickly how to get there?
Okay, so when you log on to international toastmasters.org and you see all these tabs, there's the Leadership Central tab. That's where, when you are an officer, you're given access to Club Central, okay? Club Central essentially is another data repository where, after we are done here and we approve the level, we come back here, hopefully in the same, around the same time. After completing the level in Basecamp, we go to Club Central, we go to the club, and we submit an education award. So those go hand in hand, and they're not yet integrated. So we're the ones that are going to complete the Basecamp task, and then we're going to come and complete the international/Club Central task of submitting the education award that corresponds to that level. Go ahead, Scott.
So the reason why we have to make sure we come in and do it in both Basecamp and also in Club Central, Basecamp gives the members access to be able to then move on to a future level. When you do it in Club Central, that gives the club credit towards the DCP goals. If you don't submit it in Club Central, the club never gets credit for their DCP goals. You might have 20 people that have completed levels, but if you don't do it in both, it looks like you didn't do any. So make sure you do both. Unfortunately, they don't talk to each other. So we have to be that connector to be able to connect what happened within Pathways and what happens within Club Central.
And I'm pretty sure maybe John doesn't know this place. This is the dashboard. This is the famed Distinguished Club dashboard. Personally, I'm an area director too, and sometimes people, when they hear about DCP or Club Success Plan, They immediately think about the membership goals, which are obviously, we're facing pretty interesting challenges right now. That's just a portion of it. Tonight, we're working on this, which, by the way, has been decluttered because we only have pathways to worry about. What we did and the submission is what's going to populate this section here of your club dashboard and give the club credit for what has been done. Also, much like membership, rather than focus solely on that, when we allow members, as Junchi asked, to feel encouraged to take on a path and start working on it, this is going to, quote unquote, magically by itself automatically be filled, because as people complete their projects, you will be able to submit and these numbers are going to show up. So the numbers are nothing but a reflection of the enthusiasm and the interest that we have somehow fostered in the members to complete their projects. So it's 7:38. Scott, a quick check, the portion on Basecamp, the quick look at Central and the dashboard. Is there anything else that we need to do before we jump to talk a little bit about the member experience in pathways tied to all of this?
Yeah, why don't you, if you want to switch over on your screen so that we can see where to save speeches and that sort of thing.
Okay, that's where I'm going. That's where I'm going.
All right, so one of the questions that we had at the beginning, Jinshu, I think this was you who asked this, is how do you get members to sign up for speeches when there might be some waning engagement? When we had the manuals, do you remember how you got your first manuals? Do you remember how that happened?
Automatic.
I think I have a mentor that I got the package and I work on it.
So most of us got those manuals just magically in the mail, because when we first signed up for Toastmasters, paid our dues, that tripped a system within Toastmasters International to mail us our first competent communicator, our first competent leader. We no longer have that automatic section that pumps out, hey, here's how you get into pathways. It's now on every club to figure out a system that works for them to be able to help members get engaged and get logged into pathways. The one thing that stays the same is the one-on-one connection. When we got the manuals, when we got the CC and the CO manuals in the mail, we really didn't know what we were looking at when we first got them for the most part, especially the CC, the CL manual. We need to figure out like that back grid that you only have to do 4 out of 7 here and 1 out of 7 here, and that made no sense. So we had mentors that helped guide us through that same system. We had vice president of education that helped us walked us through, here's where you do all these roles, here's how you figure out what you're going to talk about, here are the speeches that you have. The same sort of communication needs to still happen at a club level. That just because it's automated, we don't lose that personal contact with our members. I think one of the most underrated parts of being a Basecamp manager, of being a president and secretary of VPE, is to find out from every single member why they are there. Why did they join Toastmasters? What are they hoping to get from Toastmasters? And how can Toastmasters help them accomplish what they're trying to do? Well, if you make it personal towards them, the what's in it for them part, the with them, they're going to have an easier time connecting, why am I doing these things, for the educational component. We as a district don't necessarily have a strong history, though, of getting people signed up for Toastmasters. I'm sorry, we're getting people signed up for pathways. We actually lag behind a lot of our region in getting members signed up, which is interesting because they've paid their money and yet they don't get the educational component that they've already paid for. So our goal, one of the reasons why we do this and why we're asking you to go out and have those conversations and meetings with your individual members is to build those one-on-one connections, those relationships that draw people back into your club to keep them engaged. It's all about the relationship. Toastmasters is not meant to be done in isolation. It's meant to be done as a team and with people walking with you. If you can find why they're walking and help somebody go with them, you have a much better chance of getting them to actually work through pathways and sign up for their speeches. The other thing that we'll do, and Clifford, you've mentioned this a couple of times tonight, Every one of our speeches that we give is done not because Pathways or Toastmasters says, hey, here's a topic for you to talk about. It's because we know that we want to learn how to speak about this thing out there somewhere. It's not about giving the speech in Toastmasters. It's about learning how to give a speech in Toastmasters so you can apply it out there. The topics are as different as there are people. Don't think that just because you're in a visionary communication or in a presentation mastery path, you can talk about the things that matter to you, not the things that matter to the rest of your club. So find those things that matter to you and help your members down a path of discovery for what matters to them and where they're going to be able to use this out in the real world, not just within their club. Clifford, I saw you raising your hand.
Thank you, Scott. All right. So I only ask a question because I've given that exact answer to people. We're not giving you a fish. We're teaching you how to fish type of thing. However, I've noticed a tremendous amount of, it's the same for every pathway, to be honest, for be it presentation mastery, persuasive influencer, I don't know, coaching, like whatever it is, they're all the same. And when somebody pointed that out to me, I didn't have a good answer for that. That's kind of why I'm turning to y'all.
So the first 3 levels are really the precursors. Those are those prerequisite classes that you have to take in college in order to get to the upper level classes. The reason why it's asking you to repeat those for each path is it wants you to apply those same skills in a new way. So the first time I went through, I did visionary communication, and I applied those first 3 levels to how to be more of a more visionary communicator. The second time I'm going through is under engaging humor. I'm trying to be funny. So I'm looking at an icebreaker from a whole different crowd, a whole different avenue of where I would apply that. It's how you apply it. A lot of the manuals was the same sorts of things also. It's how we applied them and how we came up with what mattered to us and impacted them. So it's not necessarily that Toastmasters is going to say, do this one thing that's going to unlock the mystery behind how to become a better presenter. It's how do you use that context to unlock the potential within yourself.
And once again, Clifford, you may see the same projects listed, but per path, you're only going to do 1 or 2 of each. So personally, the idea is, okay, I did this too. Am I going to do them again on my next path that I need for my DTM? No, I'm going to pick something else. So right there, from a stack of 8 in level 4, for example, give or take, I did 2 projects to complete 1 path and then other 2 to complete the other. So they may look the same, but it's like Scott is saying, and then how do you apply it? I mean, do I want to do this for a project at work, or do I want to do this just for fun? It's 7:45. I'm going to go right now into precisely the portion about our experience as members. Oh, look, we're in the same spot. Everybody can see we're in the same spot. Big difference. You don't want to click in here. This is what most everybody will do. They're going to pick a club and they're going to choose what they're doing. The path that I've been working on has so far been in Illuminators. My advanced club is saying, hey, we need icebreakers, get another path. And that's why also, even though it looks the same, we're going to pick different things. So here, Illuminators, it asks me again, continue, but still I have to click go. That's just to confirm the drop down. See, it changed. I'm back into Cornerstone or Pathways, and it changed. This is now for people. The most important portion here is when we go to our profile. Hold on. Okay, they're in here. I'm going to quickly go into, you're giving out a speech. You supposedly, depending on the tool that you're using, you make sure that somebody gets the PDF. They either fill it out electronically, which they can, or they send you a scan. Your documents are saved into this really cool tool called an e-portfolio. And guess what? I found out about this on Wednesday, so mine is bare bones. You should have seen Scott's. He's got a sample one from 2018 that's filled to the brim. Bottom line, instead of losing a manual, now it's as easy as he said, you can go into here and take a picture and load it on your phone, add file, everybody knows this, select the file, boom, you just saved it for posterity. You're never gonna lose that manual. I thought that was, seriously, that was the epiphany of the week. Then, coming back here to the tabs, you have your Basecamp profile, about me. I thought this was also very important. For those of you who sometimes wonder, why am I doing a role? It's here on your profile that will be counted. So this will help you keep tabs on it. And I believe where I need to go is,
Up to the settings gear mode.
oh,
the very
okay.
top right.
Technology, sorry. So to feed this at the bottom, you go to the top right. It's a big mountain, to my account. And here is where you're going to populate your roles. When you did something, encourage your members to do this, because to me, this is automatic. And most people want to be timer. Most people want to do grammarian. Well, make sure that they put it in there, one, for credit, and then to realize, oh, what else could I be doing in terms of actual projects and whatnot? The other
There are a couple of paths that are out there. I think half a dozen paths or so, that in order to get past level 3, you have to have done this.
Thank
you have to have done all of the roles that are out there. You only have to do them once. So if you end up in another path that asks for the same thing, you don't have to go back and do them all again. It just wants you to wants to make sure that you're learning how to be a Toastmaster, so you're engaged in the club as well as a speaker. It's the leadership development portion to make sure that you're learning how to lead as opposed to just learning how to speak. I'm not show up here. The e-portfolio also. Anybody remember these handy dandy little ballots that we used to have in clubs? Has anybody seen these before? Well, it is the ballot and brief evaluations, item 163, available from your local Toastmasters store. They're really cool because it gives you a place for first speaker, second speaker, third speaker, and it allows you to be able to, for the individual clubs, everybody can provide feedback to those speakers, pass it to the speakers, and they get different viewpoints of how they did for that individual project, the individual speech. The problem was these little pieces of paper, they get lost incredibly easily, like really easily. Like Rob shaking his head, you probably gotten these before and you're like, where did that go? The laundry, if you meet at a restaurant, it's always left on the table. They're really hard to keep track of. With the e-portfolio, it's the only portion of Pathways, really all of the Toastmasters technology that works better on your phone. You can line all of the little slips you get at the end of a meeting up on a table, go into your e-portfolio, take a picture of it, and it uploads immediately. It's easier than scanning it. So if you don't use these, I definitely encourage you as a club. It's a great way to help people practice giving really short evaluations. It's a great way to help people write in 2-point font. And it's a wonderful way to help build relationships, because when you invest in somebody else's growth, there's a relationship that's built there. That's why we come to do this, because we didn't think we had all the answers. We didn't even have all the questions. This helps us build the relationships of how can somebody help me get better. But use this in ePortfolio, great way to be able to do that. Snap the picture on your phone, upload it. These are a lifesaver. And yes, I have packs of these in my closet. That's where I went.
Anyway, back to how as a member we get the most out of Pathways. There is a tab here. We saw the e-portfolio. Paths on Learning is essentially the curriculum. That's not what this class tonight is for. Then there is a feedback segment. I had heard about it. You can actually do a feedback request in here and ask other members inside your club and keep it in one place. Again, we went to the Basecamp profile. And it's 7:51. I don't want to get down into the weeds with my own path in here. Let me check without looking at my notes. I think we have room for more questions. Scott, is there something that very important. Now remember, I asked Scott this question on Wednesday. How many of you are aware of the fact, we talked about all these things, how many of you have done a DTM already besides Scott and me? Are we the only DTMs in here? Okay. I heard from somebody who's about to finish it. When you complete your second path, you ask international to, through your officers, I am ready to complete my DTM project. The DTM project doesn't show up, it's not there to be seen until we are nearing the completion of the second path. When they looked at both paths being complete, both up to level 5, then that's the prerequisite to unlock that. And then you need to ask your VP or a club officer to help you unlock the DTM project. I wanted to mention that. Scott?
The DTM project is basically a capstone project to help you apply the things you've learned through pathways. Because I think we've all met DTMs out there that the DTM stood for did the manual, that they went through and checked everything off, but they didn't necessarily learn anything on the way, but they got the certificates, they got the letters. This is to help individuals make sure that as you're going through, you get something from it instead of just getting a letter behind your name. So Rob, did that answer all the questions you had when we went in? Did we touch on everything you were looking for?
You did a very good job. Thanks very much.
Perfect. Joan, how about you?
Yes.
Good, okay. Junchi?
Good. I have another question,
Go
not
for it.
directly related to the Basecamp.
Go for it.
Sure. I'm also working on my level 4, the building up social presence for the club. And we're considering to make a page for our club on LinkedIn page and interact with district clubs as well. So I wonder, how should I reach out to other district clubs or other international clubs maybe to gain some interaction and then also attract some new members from our new page on LinkedIn?
You can definitely search on LinkedIn in the search features there for other Toastmasters clubs. If you just search for Toastmasters Club, you'll start to get a plethora of options of clubs you can connect to. If you're going to do a LinkedIn page, just like every social media, don't do it and just let it sit. Be active on it, post content that matters to people, and people will find you as well. I think that the biggest thing we can do, though, is if we also look through our connections on LinkedIn, through all of our members' connections on LinkedIn, we all know people that as they went through the past 6 months, life changed significantly. We now work from home in front of a computer and a screen in this little box. When we used to go somewhere and have interactions with human beings, that's changed. This is a different format of communication than what they might be comfortable with. People are changing jobs. How do you interview? This is a great platform to be able to learn how to interview more effectively, because interviews are basically a series of table topics that you're controlling the flow of what's being discussed. You can talk to people about who are changing careers or out there looking for something to help this be a different skill than what they had before. So if you search for some of those things on LinkedIn, you'll have a better job of being able to connect with the people that need it, and reach out to the companies around you, because there's not a company out there right now that doesn't want to have a workforce that is more comfortable speaking on a screen than what they were when all of this started. This is, as we were talking about before, this is an incredibly cost-effective way to fill in some gaps for training departments around the world.
And that's why we've been traditionally so strong in terms of having corporate clubs, of what Scott just said.
So does that help?
Thanks.
Yeah, that's good.
And Yunchi, I wanted to point out, I shared the personal email of our public relations manager. Your kind of questions is what she would like to hear and be able to support you with. So I would say that's a gateway. And second plug, if you feel inclined to join us on a Monday, like Monday the 14th, we meet at 7 p.m. Leadership Outreach Toastmasters. That would count as another club in the district. And personally, I joined that club because it's a database. It's an experience database. The members there have been fulfill all kinds of roles and pretty dynamic group. So, and Adele is a member, Scott is a member, I am a member. So September 14th at 7 p.m. If you want to know more, let me know.
Shameless
Thank you.
plug, without a doubt. Joan, was there anything else that we could answer for you about how to get through the Basecamp portion of Pathways? Because you said you've only been around for a couple months.
Yeah, I just logged in. What I find out is I probably need to spend more time just to get myself familiar with it. I do notice that my menu is different from what I see from Francisco's. So I don't know if there is an access differences between us.
There shouldn't be that many access differences between you. Maybe on Club Central there should be because he's an area director as well, but in actual Basecamp there shouldn't be. Tell you what, send me a note with some times that you might be available, and I'll be more than happy to. You and I can share screens back and forth, and I can walk you through how to do some of this stuff.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay, thank you. Yeah, well.
Sure, absolutely. Jill, I know you joined a little bit later. Are there any questions we can answer for you about Basecamp that maybe you were hoping to cover tonight?
I don't have any questions right now. I would love to go back and see this session again if it's possible.
It's being recorded, so you'll actually absolutely be able to do that. And you'll be able to see all 4 of them on the YouTube page.
Thank you.
Perfect. Clifford, any questions?
No questions. I would just like to say that if anybody want to join a really good Toastmasters club, it's called the Westfield Toastmasters Club. We meet Tuesdays at 7 p.m. It's probably way better than any club that you've heard of tonight. Thank you very much. Toastmasters.
Fantastic. That's awesome. I definitely encourage you to go out there and visit other clubs. We tend to get into a rut of going to just Westfield or just Lot or just wherever our club is, and we see this one thing this one way, but all of us are in different clubs, and the reason why we have so many clubs is there's so many different personalities out there. Go and experience some things in some other clubs. You might just find that the thing that you think is amazing in your club, somebody does a little bit better somewhere else, and you can take even the best club in the world and make it even better. I know Clifford's like, I think theirs is fighting words. That's crazy talk. But you can learn things from other clubs you would have never expected. Before I came to Indiana, I had never heard of a table topics evaluator. I've now introduced it into Florida, and there are clubs in Florida now that do table topics evaluations. There are clubs up here that had really never heard of Joke Masters, never heard of Quiz Masters. Every area does stuff a little bit differently. So learn from other clubs out there. Maybe you'll just make some friends that you'll find some new members that way, because everyone that goes to Westfield, I'm sure, has the most amazing experience ever. And if you can share that experience amongst other clubs, then you'll increase your brand. The people will be drawn to you because they know that they need to go find Clifford.
All of them. Just to reiterate, all of them have the
All of
best
them.
experience every single time. Just throwing that out there if anybody wants to visit. Thank you.
Excellent. It's 8 o'clock, Scott.
If there's no other questions, thank you all so very much. This one has been recorded. I'm going to hit stop recording now. It was a pleasure spending an hour with all of you again tonight.